everybody that talks about AI in the event industry is just, doing something on top of an infrastructure that is not ready for that. And you cannot build this infrastructure if you don't address the revenue platform side of things. And what they're currently using is 1999 software. It is an industry that works with fixed inventory, like a hotel or airlines. I don't have, more space. I'm sitting in that space. That's what I have. But I'm not doing dynamic pricing. I'm not optimizing, for new services, how I can price differently things based on demand and how I'm forecasting, that a specific area of the show is going to sell out faster.
Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Živile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Živile, and today we're recording at Slush. And with me, I do have Ben Constantini from Sesamers. Ben, thank you so much for joining. Finally, we made it,
yes,
no?
Yeah.
I'm really glad that after a party until 3:30, you're here, fresh and ready to talk. And obviously, one of the first words and first places I met you was during the event, and you are always known as someone who know where is the best party, who know where is the best trade show, where the best startups are hiding, everything, whatever is related to events.
Mm-hmm.
How did the event come into your life? This whole industry.
Yeah. To be honest, I think the starting point is really music, like concert shows, festivals, stuff like that. I started to organize very early on. I didn't know it was kind of a business per se, right? But I think this is the starting point. And then at some point in my career, I started when I was 23 or something like that, a record label. I was living in Spain, and with that started to organize bigger stuff. So still in events, festivals, tours. We organized in 2006 a tour for a band in China.
Huh.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
And in China.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was crazy. We did a week there and 5 gigs, and one was a big music festival where we managed to get them booked as one of the very few international artists. And I was there with a camera from 2006, so it was probably like a thing, I don't know, 10 kilos, recording from the stage, that craziness. And they were getting famous because of the online promotion we were doing, and their music was available for free download, which was at that time kind of a thing because internet broke the entire music industry. So artists that would be pro giving their music for free were kind of the bad guys in a sense, versus those that were fighting against free downloads like Metallica, those bands, that went to trials and so on. So this particular, journey, in parallel of that, I started to also kind of organize events in the scientific space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So these were a lot more professional, I would wear different clothes. Exactly. But this is where I started to really kind of, work on content and putting together programs on stuff that I didn't understand anything.
So how did that happen? Was serendipity?
No, I was working professionally. I was, because of my studies, working with scientists in the field of economy, agriculture, environment.
That is cool.
Yeah, It was in Spain. It was like 20 years ago.
Oh la la, quite a package of experience we have in the programming and events. So I kind of defined really well, like events from different angles.
Yeah.
And we will get later to your latest hat.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a big part of who you are and your image. So I'm very curious maybe to immediately dig deeper. So what is a great architecture of a good event? What is an architecture of a really good event, right? What are those key essential pillars for... Because industry is one thing, but there are so many details about having a good one.
The problem is that the answer depends.
It depends. Okay, so let's go for a tech event.
A tech event?
What do you see?
What size?
Whoa, mid-size.
What's it, like 5,000 people? Is mid-size
5,
for you?
7, yeah. No?
5? I don't know.
I think so up until 10,000 I would consider... No, 5,000 mid-size.
Yeah, I think mid-size is in the thousands. Over 10, you started to have, large production challenges.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why Slush is keeping it at 13,000, even though there is a rationale around the quality of the people, if you keep it small, you can curate better the participants, and you can also charge higher ticket price for certain, audiences, which is what they're doing very well here. But there's also an opportunity to make it easier to run from a logistic point of view. If you go beyond 15, 20, that's at 20, the mark is like now you're getting into problems of magnitude that you will find very hard to solve if you're not running an event business all year long. So like trade shows or exhibition organizers do, right? So this is when a certain scale is going to require kind of, different type of logistics and planning. So at that level, 13, it's like a very nice sweet spot. That, yeah, they're putting together amazingly. So in terms of architecture, I think I was asking you, what is it that you're asking exactly? Because the bigger trend is that people are organizing smaller things, right?
Yeah.
All over the place. You see in particular, I think, investors, VCs, betting on their own event brands. Think of The Drop, for example, or what Norskin is doing with the Impact Week. This is a trend that will continue. And that trend is served by the fact that people are, especially younger generation as well, looking for a sort of smaller, intimate experience, community gatherings, so on. So you can, again, because financially as an investor, I don't really need to make a lot of money out of that. My incentive is not really just the monetary one. You can run very exciting experiences with like 500 people and up to 1,000 that will still feel intimate, that will, create this sort of like community building and so on. So I think that is a category of event where when you use the word architecture is really, really key, because there you can customize a lot of what you want to do and offer to your participants. When you're growing to 5,000, then you already are forced to kind of, bundle things or package things together. So I'm not going to be able to personalize the experience of 5,000 people, at least today. I will need to consider them as groups or segments.
Yeah.
I'll need to do marketing to address, their purchasing, power. I need to plan how I'm going to, fill in the room. Do I want to sell out early? How I do that? So to answer specifically, I would say that for a tech event in the 5,000 range,
Yeah.
I think in 2026, one key element on the architectural side of things, you must put the emphasis on the founder needs. It's not new, but the pressure is there. We see that all over the board. Events are kind of building more program for founders and so on. You need to put the emphasis on the meetings. Very good example of that is an event like SaaS Talk. It's exactly in the size of what you mentioned. SaaS Talk, SaaS, conference in Dublin and USA also. This year they reduced the content to a third of what it used to be, and they put the full, focus on one-to-one meetings. So like hosted buyers type of, approach. So that element, like super efficient, modern, one-to-one meeting, which is one of the strengths of Slush where we are. And the last element will be to really provide sort of, moments to get people in smaller groups together, kind of, so like workshops curated. Again, it's not really an innovation per se, but the larger trend that's happening, and Julius Solaris, for example, is kind of the GOAT in that these subjects. I recommend his newsletter to everyone listening, is that people will look for sort of like 50, 80 people gathering in the middle of the bigger things. So like, based on the job, based on the specific problem you're facing, and offering this type of experiences require understanding of your audience, require financial, models that make sense as well for you to be profitable when you're running that, and also require skill set like the ones that you have, for example. You need MCs and people like you. Did I answer your question? It was very long,
No,
I'm like, we have only 30 minutes, like, okay, we're done.
No, I think you did answer the question. And you also went ahead of another question I had in mind, and I wanted to hear from you. What are the trends you're seeing in the event industry? And you mentioned already about those smaller industry or particular vertical events that come just for a particular cause. Either it's impact or it's going to be only fintech, or you mentioned SaaS. Have you also owned smaller activities happening? Do you think people are still interested in large events, or why do they go?
They are. There is basically at industry level. So the thing is that people in our sort of in the startup ecosystem, we look at events mostly through the lens of Slush, Web Summit, Vivatech, these type of events, which is just like a super small fraction of the industry. And they actually exist because the traditional industry, the incumbents, didn't really took seriously the fact that they could serve the startup ecosystem. You know, they were like, whatever, small, companies, they will die. Who cares? And there's a new generation of events that are kind of really using the playbook of exhibitions, but addressing the startup economy. Like they're like, I want to have a third of my revenue from startups. How do I build an event that is scalable like an exhibition is, and not like just, something that you can only run by your nonprofit, which is kind of the model here at Slush. And so there is basically at sort of, macro level, there is consolidation. So it's kind of the idea that there's a winner take it all on the large event side of things. So there's only one big unmissable event in your industry, in your category. And it tends to own the others, right? It tends to kill the competition. There's no more room for like, okay, there's going to be like 10 big events, again, in one specific, category. But at the same time, there is the trend of, more regional events that are large, like the mid events, we're talking about, and easily events of 20, 30,000 people will fall in that category. That are they would call it in jargon, geo-cloned. Yeah, that's the term. Yeah. So you have the big brand, the one that is making, 20, 30 million in revenue, just one event, up to 50 million. We work with events that are making 70 million in one show. It's insane.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So they have the big one, and then the geo-clone for specific, regions, still doing the same market. Like we specialized in that vertical, and really like an event to build, to bring vendors and buyers together. So exhibitors show new products to their clients, right? That type of events. And there's a lot of startups going to these fairs. So then they will be doing 10, 15, 20,000, 50,000 people events in Canada, Asia, China, and so on and so on. And this is the bigger trend. Like it's like you have this, okay, only one big one, but then there's opportunity for the regional winners to emerge. And the other trend, I don't know how far it's going to go, but it's I like to see, for example, what the guys from Deep Tech, the Momentum are doing is that they really started with the pure startup investor approach. But very early on, they're taking this sort of like, okay, can we do an exhibition in specific verticals? And they're covering 6 verticals, I think, for next year, like deep tech verticals. And it's not new per se, but from what I see from the playbook they're building, they are creating assets, like an IP that they can then, spin out and be like, okay, we're going to do one for defense tech. In the US, I can spin off, my, specific, brand. And that's something that not many startup events have done, that type of sort of, I'm going to build vertical and then a specific vertical, I'm going to spin it off and do it in another market. But that will serve very well the bigger trend that I was telling you of mid-sized regional events.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And
I'm very I feel like I'm telling you stuff that are for very specific people who are kind of, curious about the event industry. So sorry if it's boring. Huh?
But it's very important to understand the thing, because sometimes we think that, it's just building or creating an event is just give some food, give some drinks, and gather people together. Sometimes yes, but if we look into more high-level events and that you want to generate most value, I do find some of the events are not really delivering the purpose or value, and it then ends up being a repetitive pattern of semi-valuable event, let's say for investors, startups, and so on. What would you say? What event has to have to attract good companies?
It's a chicken egg, so basically, the way the challenge here is that if I'm aiming at the best companies, and then you can ask yourself what is the best, but there is kind of two drivers, there's two opposite forces there. Best companies from an event revenue point of view is a company that will grow to spend money at the event. That's the best company. So if I'm TNW in the Netherlands and I bring in Aiden, the payment company, very early on, which is the true story, and you have the same story with Stripe at Web Summit, for example. They come in very early on, and they will grow, become a unicorn, and they will be like a massive, exhibitor and sponsor my show. I'm very happy to bring them on board for almost nothing, not make money, because these guys in 10 years, they're going to be spending $1 million at my show, which is exactly what happened. This is a good company for an event. The good company for an event is like, oh, this is a very promising, technology startup revolutionizing XYZ for industry, whatever. That doesn't really bring in cash, because that company maybe in 2 or 3 years, it's done, doesn't exist anymore. It might be relevant from an investment point of view because maybe they're going to get acquired very fast. There's other reasons for the company to be interesting. But from the event side, it doesn't mean that it is because it is the best technology. So you see this sort of like tension between having the best in the sense of like, wow, this is a crazy technology. I'm never going to make €1 from them. Or having the best as, oh, this is really great company.
Yeah.
They're going to bring a lot of value to my show in the long term. And that, question, I think, is... if you look at the industry, it's kind of, why, okay, certain shows are really focusing on serving, kind of making revenue out of sponsors and ticket sales. Here we are at Slush, great example of that. Yeah. So very curated. You have to apply for everything. You have to apply to get a cheaper ticket for startups. You want to exhibit as a startup, you have to apply to pay to exhibit. Similar approach from Web Summit. I'm not saying I don't think it is as curated maybe on the sales side at Web Summit, but you also have to apply to get access to exhibition space. And so you have the show filtering out non-startups, meaning consultancy, service companies, people that are trying to hide behind the startup, domain website to get a cheaper ticket. And by doing this, the idea is that you bring in super high quality companies, and then in front of that, you have investors that are willing to pay a premium. So $1,000, to be here, or Hello Tomorrow, so very pricey for investors, selling out their investor ticket every year because of the quality of the startup they bring in. To build a pipeline of amazing startup, you're going to be running a startup competition. So there's all these elements that can make sense for you to say, okay, I'm going to really curate an amazing group of builders. I want to have the best early stage companies. Zero guarantee of if any of these companies will be still around in 2 or 3 years. It doesn't matter in this startup, kind of economics to be like, oh yeah, I want to make sure I'm betting on companies that are building long-lasting revenue company. You want to build unicorns, you want to get, exit numbers that make sense. That's kind of, so this is the model for kind of events that are betting on high quality founders. And so you also bet on the content that is serving this type of crowds. And then you also have the sponsor money that's coming mostly from organizations that are addressing this type of audience. So companies that are selling to founders, like the Stripes, the Google, you see them over there. They want to make sure that there's very top, quality startups, but again, startups that they discover that they've never seen before. AWS, when they come to Web Summit, they discover 3,000 new companies that they've never saw before. So that's kind of, the idea there. Versus the system that I was telling you earlier, where maybe it's you don't really expect to make money out of the startups, out of the investors, out of the, the type of partners that are embed in this, and your idea there is that you should be making money from any company. Doesn't matter if it's a startup or not.
Bingo. Great, great that you're touch basing on the money part as well, because I don't know, so many events, they just either don't make money or don't find the right packaging, don't create good value, and it's important also to talk about that and educate. And you are one of those pioneers and wizards of the events. And what's also interesting that you saw some problems in the event industry and just started kind of your own venture.
Yeah.
Right? Can you
Yeah.
tell us more about that? Before we knew Sesamers as everything from media to events to programming to bringing founders to conferences,
Yeah.
trade shows, and being this front face of, I would call first, it was more known for European tech events, but you obviously doing lots of work outside Europe. You had your time in Asia as well, if I recall it well.
You're right.
And right now you're kind of putting on the founder hat.
Yeah. We've been experimenting a lot of different things. Always at this intersection of events and startups. And basically what we realized over the past year, I'm going to try to make it super straightforward, but it's linked to revenue, as you were referencing earlier. We started to do one thing super specific, is that we have a lot of shows that want us to help them with sales. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to avoid that subject for many years. I brought in 2 late co-founders to the company a year ago, 2 amazing individuals. I'm blessed, I have a sales machine, a business angel, startup guy who's been in the ecosystem for more than 10 years, called Stefan, who joined in January 24, and Sophie, who is an engineer who used to work at a cybersecurity startup that got acquired by Safran, where she was leading AI products that do image recognition, satellite image recognition with AI, data, crazy stuff. And she joined in September. So she's technically top level. She could be working anywhere, where they need AI engineers. And with them, I started to take seriously the request that we were having of shows that can you help us sell? Until now, everything we were doing was on the, let's say, marketing side of things. I'm going to help you bring in people. But it's oh, you run a program for free. There's something that is exciting for startups, for investors, for corporates, whatever, but that will be, I'm not going to be selling it. Almost having a commercial alignment with the show will be taboo, something that we didn't really want to have. And I think in a sense, in the early days, part of the cool vibe of the brand and the community that we created, and I think, in the process, one big learning is that we because I've been around for many years and people, come in and go out, the community evolves. It's not always the same, and people love to talk about community, about things that aren't really a community. That's for a different chapter. So basically, not being commercially aligned made us cool, which is, if you step back a little bit, you're was actually the dumbest person in the room, right? Because everybody here has a commercial interest. Mm-hmm. So why are you positioned oh, this is amazing ecosystem platform, but guess what? No one is backing me to do that thing. Yeah. So I have to indirectly find, the model to do what we're doing for free to support startups. And be oh, actually, we have a good deal flow of startups, so corporates are willing to pay us for scouting. Okay, cool. So we've been testing, you see what I mean? Very different things, but down the road, the point is, okay, actually, we can help you sell stuff. And the big learning was just a year ago, we took the sales of the startup exhibition space of CL Paris. So it's a massive B2B food trade show, 7,800 exhibitors. It is insane. It's one of the biggest shows on earth.
Big number.
It's 40 football stadium of exhibition space.
Can I test the food there?
Yes, you can. There's a lot of food. It's crazy. So it's for professional, it's B2B, but you can have samples of a lot of crazy stuff. Cool. If you like truffles, you can try truffles of all sorts from different countries. If you like olive oil, if you like Spanish ham, it is insane. Okay, that's really one of the biggest shows on earth, literally. 300,000 visitors, B2B. And inside that stuff, they had 1,500 square meters dedicated to startups. Mm-hmm. And we took the risk, with them to lead the sales of that space. We got 120 companies, 30 countries, etc. By doing this, we basically started to scratch the surface of event revenue and how badly it was operated from a technical side of things. And so the learning here is that everybody that talks about AI in the event industry is just, doing something on top of an infrastructure that is not ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot build this infrastructure if you don't address the revenue platform side of things. And what they're currently using is 1999 software. It is an industry that works with fixed inventory, like a hotel or airlines. I don't have, more space. I'm sitting in that space. That's what I have. But I'm not doing dynamic pricing. I'm not optimizing, for, new services, how I can price differently things based on demand and how I'm forecasting, that a specific area of the show is going to sell out faster. There's a lot of things that will be obvious if you're into, I was saying, like hospitality.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but it is obvious that you could do it, that events traditionally are avoiding, and they're just going to be selling packages that are like, bronze, platinum, it's this stuff, or square meters, they are like this, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as we started to do sales directly, we started to unveil like what was hidden, behind, below everything. But like specifically today, what an event organizer can do on Sesamers, you can just, reach out if you want to do it. It's very straightforward. We built a platform that allows you to qualify companies if there are relevant exhibitors for your show. We're using some AI stuff to do that. So based on other shows they've attended, if they're hiring, if they're growing, if they raise funds for startups, if they have commercial agreements, whatever, it's inside signals that we have that says, oh, this company actually is very relevant, not only because it matches the ICP of your event, but also because we think that they have a lifetime value of that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
They are bound to be a long-time partner for your show. You should definitely prioritize these guys versus whatever other, random leads you're getting in your pipeline. You can contractualize, invoice, payment recovery. Everything is already live. This is what we built, the first, product that we're using for that new platform. And the client can pay in several installments. So if you want to buy a booth for 10K, and pay in 3 months, 6 months, like BNPL, buy now, pay later, you can do it on Sesamers. This is live. This is something we're using every day today.
This is great. And it's up and running right now.
Yeah. 15% of the clients' exhibitors are using it. So basically, a story I love to share, we were selling a show in like it's a trade show, but like very much IT for IT vendors, like 20,000 visitors, I think 300 or 400 exhibitors. And we had the entire startup inventory on platform. So the show was they were not using the software yet, but they were using us for all their sales, like inbound and outbound. We were kind of handling everything. And one particular company, they booked their spot, at that show using the payment, installment, the BNPL, which basically for us means that we take 10% more. So there's an extra take rate. It costs you more as a company, but you split the payment over several months. 2 weeks after the show, they announced their seed round. So it's like when you're a startup founder, specifically for startups, you can commit to spending 5, 10K in certain moments of your journey. You can't. That's not possible. But 2 weeks after the show, you're like, hey, we just raised, 10 million. This is impossible to address with the current infra. You cannot do anything that I just described that is like super easy in reality to build if you build from 2026, technology. Mm-hmm. If you have to repurpose whatever you have, in your system since 20 or 30 years, you're doomed. It's never going to work. And we kind of the only one taking that angle from the revenue side. And I know it's very risky. It's very hard to put it off, but one of the most exciting things, so again, if you're an event organizer, come and reach out to me, is that we are pretty much outcome based. So there's no upfront cost. An event, if we think it makes sense for us, like we're not onboarding all events on Earth, we really are picking on what type of event we think we can really serve properly. There's no cost attached. It's just like we're going to keep part of the transactions. We processed over €1 million so far in transactions on the platform.
Yeah.
And we have a pipeline of events that roughly like 12 million of transactions for the next year. And it doesn't cost them anything. We're just going to keep, a percentage of what's happening. And that is something that event organizers love, because event organizers hate to spend anything on software.
Oh, 100%.
They are super against. I mean, they hate to spend money in general, and you know that.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm an MC. This is my fee. Like, but we're going to give you exposure,
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
It's really
and so
crazy.
with software, it's the same. And so if you're anybody right now who is doing like, oh yeah, I'm charging you a SaaS platform for X amount of money to serve 5,000 people, you're doomed. We're coming for you. We're going to kill all of them. I mean, kill in the nice sense,
Ooh la la, Ben is getting aggressive here. So how did your role now change since you've got, you were always a founder, but now it seems more like kind of tech software platform founder, more really focused on the business side as well of it?
Yeah, it's not easy, because you basically have to force yourself to kill a lot of things, I used the word killing before, but that's really, I guess, one of the area where, I mean, I'm at the end of the day, I'm the ultimate decision maker. Mm-hmm. So if I don't do a good, exercise with my co-founders, I'm like, okay, this is what we need to stop doing. If I can't, get them, kind of behind me, or if I'm not behind them when they need, this sort of clarity and focus, then I'm not doing a good job. The other element, I think, but that's where it's easier to do that if you're focused. But I was telling you earlier that a lot of people kind of know me in this industry because I've been around for many years. So kind of, you have this sort of like cool, nice brand, People are like, oh, nice guy. Now you want to turn that into like, okay, let's actually do business together.
Yeah.
And that process was basically what I've been up to, in this year, is to really be very, smarter or efficient on how I need to allocate my time on the right, conversation and with talking to the right people. And actually they are amazing people. It's not that, like, I'm not your friend anymore because we don't talk, but it's just that I need to prioritize that are building this type of events.
So not just a vibe, but basically someone with whom we can do business together as well.
Yeah, I'm prioritizing for this.
Yeah.
So I'm meeting on average 50 clients, potential clients or investors who could, open doors a month. That's the basic. Mm-hmm. If I do less than that, I'm probably, not doing my job. And then keeping the company afloat when it comes to financial success, like we're raising funds.
Uh-huh. How is that going for you? Have you raised funds before?
No.
Or it's a new experience.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting.
We brought in a little money earlier this year, like 160K from business angels, friend and family, as they call it. And now we're raising a seed round, and that's the first time, yeah. It's a very different, everything. So I've been, been talking to founders for the past, I don't know, probably 15 years or, but more, I would say more in the recent years, I start to have enough knowledge to be of value. I put a little bit of, angel money, in some, deals. And when you apply it to yourself, you're like, okay, now it's my turn to go out and raise. You're basically going to do some of the mistakes that you have to avoid. You told, founders, in the past, oh, you should take care about this and that. And then for some random reason, you also, do some of these mistakes. And that's a very interesting learning. But then, the main feedback I can give you two. If you're a founder out there, thinking about raising, everything they tell you about building FOMO is real. That's 100% real. Mm-hmm. Like if you don't, show this sort of like, oh, people are getting excited about the deal, they're not gonna reply to you. And as soon as we actually, started to get traction on the business side, but also on the fundraising, then people started to go crazy. That's the reality. And an event like Slush, you can come here with like a full agenda meeting, or you can. It's not easy to do if you're a first-time founder and you have network. But in the case, that of mine, it's like you want to be clever on how you use your time to kind of also create this momentum around like the conversation I'm having, and kind of right away after, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be closing around. Not because of people I met here, maybe, And I actually, really hope that one of my meeting will lead to an investment. But because the others that, are not here will feel the FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing. The other feedback I can give you from my own, blood and flesh is that you need to be very sort of, again, it's obvious. Like it's, if you heard any podcast, any founder, advice, you already know, but please do it. Very cautious about how you're approaching the process. Like you want to know who are you going to pitch first, for what reason. And this time I didn't do it, but previously in the past, when I was working for the first time, kind of putting a deck together, and at the end I didn't go to raise, I didn't need to. I started to pitch it to close friends, and then from close friends who gave me feedback, then I went to people I didn't know. A huge mistake. Start with people that you don't care about, you don't know, but don't care if you don't like my pitch, And from there, as you refine and you get better, and hopefully you prepared, you know what you really want to achieve. In my case, I'm telling you about a story. It was 2 years ago. I didn't really want to raise at the end, but I was like, I want to put the deck together. But because if you do the opposite, you're basically going to burn yourself with your friends, the ones that will be easy to get money from. The one I got money from earlier this year, when you're not really ready.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to them when you have your narrative, your story, you know how to pitch, you improve the deck based on the first feedback.
Yeah.
Then this is when you go to talk to your friends.
Bingo, you're not the first one telling me now this. We've just had a conversation with our shared friend K1.
Yeah.
We were talking a bit more on the creator economy and in general building new things. And one of the things you also mentioned and shared, do that with the people you don't know, to get real feedback, not because someone is like, know you, and because usually you're not going to get a constructive feedback because they know you and they don't want to harm their relationship. So it's just going to be maybe no or not today, rather than actually a good feedback. Yeah. So that's a very, I think.
It is big time.
Big time, great advice. And
you need to have a thick, skin, because people will tell you no. And also people won't answer to you.
Yeah.
And the ghosting when you're raising funds is really tough if you don't have, some skin, to take this.
I can see with the startup as you're definitely getting a new skin layers during the Slush. So I guess I'll let you go to continue your journey of spreading the word and fundraising and creating your business with Sesamers. I think, I think you're doing a great job. It's really great to be seeing and witnessing this growth and progress. Because, it's been, I think the first time we met in 2018.
It was in Copenhagen.
In Copenhagen, in the tech festival, no?
Yes.
Oh my God, time flies. I literally bumped into some people last week from 2018. And I haven't seen them since then. And we met at Tech Festival, and I was like, no way, which is wild. Anyway, so Ben, thank you so much for shedding the light on the industry that we know so little, but not pretend, but we kind of think that we know a lot. And there are a lot of behind the scenes, how the events go together, and what are the essentials. And I don't think the details are very important, making a good one. And I would like to ask you a final question. I have a tradition in the podcast to leave the listeners with one thought to ponder after the episode. It can be a question, it can be a quote, it can be anything you think. What would be your thought to the audience who is here with us today?
I've always looked at the impact I could, have myself would be around making information more accessible and kind of leveling down the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the reasons why I got into events. It's the idea that you can, it's like an indirect, things. Of course, if you're building a company that is changing healthcare or like, saving people from cancer, you're having a direct impact. But if you're building platforms that make it easier for these to succeed, then you're actually, building for a longer term impact. I think a lot of that is that even if today you have information available everywhere, at the end, it's still siloed. There's still an imbalance, of knowledge availability. Yeah. And events can be a place where this kind of get reset, So I would just ask people if they think, for 2026 about a space where they can help others to learn about some of the secrets of their craft, of their industry, and talk more about it.
Oh, wow, I couldn't imagine a better way to finish this episode. Ben, thank you so much for finding time and sharing
Thank you
your
very much.
craft with us and your big visions. And yeah, it was Ben. I will leave the links to the show notes. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much.
Ah, you're a real ABC master. Thank you.